all good teams, they face a little adversity, no matter how good you are. And we're facing a lot of adversity. So I think the biggest thing for us is so what, now what, right?
We just got to get the corrections back to practice and fix it. That's all we can do. Go back, fix it.
This game, you have to be able to overcome. I know a lot of our guys have been through a lot of crap. That's what life is, and those moments are in life. And so we're going to want everyone to stay together when there's a lot of people that are going to want to tear us apart.
It's a big game storm now. The rain's going to make us stronger. The storm's going to make us stronger.
You have another opportunity. You're going to be great as a fruit. How bad are you going to?
Hey, man, you're going to take everybody. Physical, for each other, relentless effort, leaving everything we got on that field tomorrow.
We welcome you to the Eagles pregame show here on Philly Sports Reports, brought to you by SeatGeek. Use code Philly Sports Report to save $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. My name is Ben Goldstein. I'm joined by Sam Hine. We have swapped places basically in the country. I'm in Florida, Sam's in New Jersey, but the Eagles are at the link on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. As the Eagles take on the 5-9 New York Giants, as the Eagles look to flip around the season and the Giants look to make something happen. I doubt anything happens, but they look to play for their own sakes. So, Sam, Merry Christmas to you. How are we doing?
Merry Christmas. I am very nervous for this game, as the last few weeks, you told me a few weeks ago that this game would probably make a lot of people in the Philadelphia area nervous. I wouldn't believe you, but today here we are, and after a 3-game losing streak for the Eagles, it's hard to feel very confident in any game they'd be going into right now.
That's not what you wanted to hear to start this show, but it's reality. And we have the 10-4 Eagles and the 5-9 Giants in Week 16. Usually this to last week, a couple years, this is now the third to last week, as the Eagles still have 3 games left to go. Today against the Giants, next week against Arizona, and then it will follow. And then 2 weeks from now, the Eagles are in MetLife. Hopefully that game won't matter, but with how things are going, it's looking like it's going to matter. But the Cowboys did lose yesterday, so the Eagles did get some ground, as they are now the 2 seed in the NFC and first in the NFC East. Niners, big game tonight for them. The Eagles win and the Niners lose. Some things could be jumping around in the NFC standings. Let's look at the quarterback matchup for today's game. It's Jalen Hurts and Tommy DeVito. If someone told me that Tommy DeVito would be the Giants starter against the Eagles in Week 16, I wouldn't even know who DeVito is. But here we are. But it's Jalen Hurts still for the Eagles, and he did not have a good game in Seattle. He was sick. It was the flu game, and it did not go well for him. So far this season, though, it's been Jalen Hurts. You don't know what to get, what you're expecting every game. 3,335 passing yards, 65.7 completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 89.9 passer rating, 542 rushing yards, 14 rushing touchdowns. The offense killed the Eagles last week against Seattle. Couldn't get anything going all night. The Giants today, however, will be without their start, Dexter Lawrence, on defense. So will this offense wake up tonight? Will anything change? What should we expect today from Jalen Hurts to the offense?
Well, going into last week's game, we thought that was going to be the wake-up game for this Eagles offense, as they were going up against one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks. So going into this Giants game, you can look at it from the stats standpoint and say that this will be another potential wake-up game for this Eagles offense. But until Jalen Hurts and this offensive coaching staff really figures things out, that the Eagles are just going to continue to struggle. Last week, like you said, they got too obsessed with the big play. Jalen tried to make too many things happen in too many situations where he didn't need to take deep shots, and in both those situations, he got them intercepted, which gave Seattle a couple chances to go down and score, which they obviously ended up doing. And I think one of the biggest things we saw throughout the week was the Eagles offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, talked about the decisions and just why, total the offense has been struggling. And one of the things that he said was that the offense was not getting enough big plays. Meanwhile, that was one of the biggest reasons that the Eagles struggled last week. And I think that that's a major flaw in their philosophy right now, is that they are too obsessed with the big play. We saw last week Jalen Hurts was missing a lot of guys underneath that were open. Devontae Smith. We all seen the screenshots of Devontae Smith running open while Hurts is throwing an underthrown deep ball to Quez that got picked off, and then again Kenny Gainwell on a check down where he could have potentially gotten them into field goal range to be able to tie the game and head into overtime, but instead he's throwing a deep ball into double coverage for AJ Brown that again ends up getting picked off. So I think one of the biggest things that Hurts and just his offensive coaching staff needs to do to kind of get things going is to just get him into a rhythm of taking what's there. He's been taking too many deep shots. The offense as a whole, they just have too many plays where they take too long to develop. Jalen is one of the, if not the most, the quarterbacks who holds onto the football the most from snap to throw. He needs to be able to get some quick shots, one of the biggest plays and one of the easiest plays the Eagles run is a slant to AJ Brown. Seems like over the last few weeks we haven't really seen that a lot. So the Eagles just really need to get Hurts into a rhythm, get a lot of easy completions, get the ball moving with run after the catch, and I think they'll start to get back on track a little more, and then that can open up some deep shots. But to have the philosophy of big plays are what we're looking for, it hasn't worked out for them, and it seems like over the last few weeks it's been one of the biggest reasons this offense has been struggling.
And one thing about that AJ Brown slant, we obviously haven't seen it in a while, but they ran it a few times against Seattle. Both times they were big plays. We'll love to see that get involved more, including with AJ Brown on those kind of shorter passes and let him work his match. We kind of saw that with Travis Kelce today, a couple plays with the Chiefs. They just lost to the Raiders 20-14. Huge upset there. Good for the Raiders, bad for the Chiefs, good for everyone else.
And what doesn't make sense too about the Eagles offense with that is that they have so many players on offense who are great run out to the catch guys. Devontae Smith, super fast, great run out to the catch. AJ Brown, obviously amazing. DeAndre Swift, Dallas Goedert, all these guys are great run out to the catch guys where if we were just able to give them the ball in space with room to run, they'll be able to turn 5, 6, 8-yard passes into 12, 15, 25-yard gains. So it doesn't always have to be deep bombs down the field. It doesn't always have to be 30-yard routes, long progressions. It can be these short plays that these guys can just take and make plays to do the extra work. And it just seems like, Tom Brady, well, I'm not comparing, obviously, Jalen to Brady, but one of the things that Brady lived off of was the short throws to Gronk, short throws to his running backs, and then those guys were able to make plays after the catch, and then you turn those, short passes into long gains, and it just seems like the Eagles do not utilize that at all, and that's definitely something that we need to see going forward.
Let's move on to Tommy DeVito for the Giants. DeVito in his starting career with the Giants, he is 3-2, 1,032 passing yards to 64.4 completion percentage, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 91.5 passer rating, 190 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdowns. The Eagles are down 2 linebackers, Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow are both inactive. We'll get to that in a little bit more. But the Eagles linebackers tonight is Shaq Leonard, Ben Van Sierman, and Brandon Smith. How can the Eagles stop the red-hot DeVito? He was kind of wired down a little bit last week in New Orleans, but he's still having a great start to his career. How can the Eagles slow him down with a lack of linebackers tonight?
Well, yeah, it's crazy because he went from a quarterback in the beginning of the season when he started getting a chance to play where they didn't even allow him to throw the ball to now he's a quarterback who has a 3-2 record. The Giants offense always has and always will go through Saquon Barkley, and that's the key to stopping them and the key to stopping DeVito. If you take away the running game for the Giants, you're going to make DeVito beat you, and he's not really going to be able to do that. But with the loss of both of our linebackers out today, that's going to be a big task for the Eagles defense to be able to stop. We've seen over the last few weeks that this number 1 rushing defense has been exposed. Going down the stretch here a little bit where the teams have been able to really run on them. So I just think if the Eagles linebackers, Shaq Leonard obviously has a great track record, but has been up and down since coming over here. And then Ben Van Sumeren and the other guy they just pulled off the practice squad. They need to make some plays tonight because if Saquon Barkley is running all over the field against us, it could be a really long game. And We saw last week that bad quarterbacks can beat this Eagles team as long as we keep them in the game. Drew Lock had to make 2 plays in the game coming down the stretch, and he made both of them to his credit. And I don't want to give Tommy DeVito the chance to have to make 2 throws to win them this game. But if we don't stop Saquon Barkley, it could really come down to that. And then Jalen Hyatt, I think, is probably the biggest threat to us tonight because we saw he's a rookie wide receiver out of Tennessee. We kind of saw last week how Jackson Smith and Jigbo was able to beat James Bradbury deep with just pure speed. Hyatt is a unbelievably fast wide receiver that the Giants drafted, and if he gets matched up against Bradbury, he can definitely leave him in the dust. And if DeVito's hitting that, it could be a long night for the Eagles corners as well.
Hopefully we won't have to deal with that. A little bit of a shorter show today. We only have 30 minutes. Game time's at 4:30. It's 4:12. So we have a little bit until the game time, but let's move on to our notable matchups for tonight's Christmas Day game. The last time the Eagles played on Christmas Day was 2017 against the Raiders. The Eagles won that game. I don't remember the exact score, but I remember it was close. I know Nick Foles was terrible. Nick Foles was horrible that season until the NFC Championship game, but it really mattered. So, I mean, Nick Foles, Eagles legend, but, I mean, first couple starts he wasn't so good. But Eagles got the win on Christmas Day. They clinched was that when they clinched the 1 seed against the Raiders that night?
Yeah, yep.
I remember sitting in bed watching that game and just come down to the end and the defense once again getting the stops. So notable matchups tonight, Eagles-Giants, Sam.
Yeah, so I just touched on the biggest notable matchup, and that was the linebackers versus Saquon Barkley. I mean, if Saquon Barkley is able to get into the second and third levels of this defense, it's going to be a very long day for the Eagles. For the Eagles in general, Saquon, we all know he's back over 1,000 yards this season in total yards, so he can catch it out of the backfield as well. That's definitely something that we're going to have to be able to tackle him in space, because when they start throwing him screens, slant routes, all that kind of stuff, we talked about it with something that the Eagles offense needs to incorporate into their game a little bit more. Well, the Giants use that all with Saquon with the run after the catch. So the Eagles' new linebackers and guys they called up off the practice squad really need to be able to do a great job tackling today. And then I think one of the biggest matchups as well is going to be Kayvon Thibodeau versus these Eagles tackles. Thibodeau is a first-round pick out of Oregon for the Giants last year. Kind of had a really slow start to his career in this rookie year, but came on late. He's having a good year this year, and he's one of those guys where if he gets going, he can wreck the game. And we've seen so far this season, including last week, where Jalen Hurts will hold on to the ball for really long, and he'll either get chased out of the pocket and have to throw the ball away, or he's getting sacked just because he's not getting rid of the ball. So I think Thibodeau can really wreck this game if our Eagles tackles aren't 100% on their game. We saw Lane struggle a little bit over the last couple of games. He did a really good job against Bosa, but he's let up some pressure a little bit over the last few games. So the Eagles' offensive line as a whole, even with Dexter Lawrence out, just really needs to do a great job of protecting Hurts. And Hurts needs to help them as well by making quick decisions, getting the ball out of his hands fast, and not just running around back there.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest problems last week. Hurts holding on to the ball for so long. Hopefully that does not occur once again tonight. But one thing that does occur all the time is Sam Hine using code Philly Sports Report to save $20 off his first SeatGeek purchase. And he did that for Sixers Magic, which is coming up. When is that game?
Wednesday night.
Wednesday. Sam Hine cashing in, and you can do that too. $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase with that code Philly Sports Report. And they're the sponsor of the show. They have been for the last 2 seasons, and they are once again. SeatGeek, it's the easiest app to use to buy your tickets to anything, sports, concerts, comedy shows, anything. All you got to do, download the SeatGeek app, select your event, get your seats. Green spots are a good deal, red or bad deal, and we will save you $20 with code Philly Sports Report. Again, that's $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek with code Philly Sports Report. Click on the link in the description to download the app and save some money on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. The link is in the bio. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring the show. Sam, the SeatGeek standout stars. They did not stand out last week. Hopefully against the Giants this week, in Week 16, they can stand out a little bit more. Who are your SeatGeek standout stars?
So I think I'm going to go a total position group here for my solo standout star of the game. And I think it's going to be the Eagles' offensive line. The Eagles have shown over the past few years that they are willing to and really able to run the ball against the Giants' defensive line. Now that Dexter Lawrence is out for this game, that takes away their biggest run stuffer, their best player, probably on their whole team outside of Saquon. So I think that the Eagles, especially after last week, they did run the ball a lot. A lot of people haven't really talked about that because they've been so focused on the quarterback play. But the Eagles did go back to running the ball a lot last week, and it was very successful. So I think they're going to go back to that again this week. Like I said, especially with Dexter Lawrence out. And I think that walking away from this game, we're going to see that the Eagles' offensive line was super dominant. And we'll get to it later in the lock of the day, but I think they're going to help one of our favorite Eagles get a touchdown.
Yeah, we'll certainly get to that a little bit later. But you were mentioning we have a little bit of a family rivalry going on Christmas. Is this what it was pertaining to? What's going on here with the Hines?
Yeah, so my dad is a Giants fan, and the rest of us are all Eagles fans. So he's upstairs ready with his Giants gear, ready to start the screaming match. And biggest game of the year in our household every single year, twice a year whenever they play each other, and happened to happen on Christmas this year when everyone's home, and we're ready to go at it.
Good luck to you. Inactives for tonight's game. We'll start with the Giants. Paris Campbell, Lawrence Cager, Benton Whiteley, Raheem Nunez, Roches, and Javarius Owens and Dexter Lawrence. Those are the Giants inactives. For the Eagles, Albert O, Rashad Penny, Tanner McKee, Nicholas Morrow, Darius Slay, Zach Cunningham. Who else am I forgetting? There's one more guy in there. Landon Dickerson. He is also inactive for the Eagles today. So what difference will these make? Eagles only have three linebackers, one of them being Shaq Leonard. The other two haven't played much. How will the Eagles get around these inactives?
Well, we already talked about the linebackers, but I think Dickerson, obviously, he was a Pro Bowler last year, so he's a super important part of that offensive line. And while I do still think the Eagles' offensive line will flourish today, one of the big things that he's a massive part of is the tush push. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how the Eagles run that today with Dickerson out, and Juergens is obviously going to be back now. But him and Kelsey are really the two big guys that lead that play. And I know a lot of people talk about how they talked about on the radio this week of how confident they are with Kelsey and Dickerson kind of leading that push up front, and Jalen just kind of always goes right behind those two big guys. So, we'll see how that affects it. With Dexter Lawrence out, it probably won't affect it too much, but if there's a failed push, it probably will come from Dickerson's replacement.
Yeah, Dickerson undergoing surgery on his thumb, so he'll be out for a little bit. Should be back for the postseason, which starts in 3 weeks, very soon, which is crazy to think about. Gamblers R Us bets today. Gamblers R Us, go listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever else you listen to your podcast. The Eagles are minus 14 on the spread today, over under 43.5, and Sam has some locks. Sam, what are your bets today?
Yeah, so since I am no longer in Florida, I do not have access to the numbers of the lines, but I have 2 touchdown locks. Jalen Hurts, anytime touchdown. I feel like I give it every week, but it just about catches every week, so I'm definitely would be putting that one down. And then it is Christmas, but it is also Boston Scott Day, the Giant Killer. If you haven't put down a Boston Scott anytime touchdown yet, you are just wasting your money. Boston Scott anytime touchdown, we all know is an absolute lock anytime they play the Giants. I put it in before I went on the plane, waiting in the airport. I put it in, and I know a lot of people put it in, and it's still very good odds. Last time I saw it, my friends were talking about it. The sports books haven't completely caught on yet to Boston Scott Day against the Giants, and you got to keep riding it until it doesn't hit.
Yeah, I mean, the Boston Scott, every single game he's played the Giants, he has a touchdown. What? I don't get it. Like, is it because his name's Boston and the Yankees and Red Sox? I don't get the dominance. It's insane, especially with Dexter Lawrence out today. The Eagles might run a little bit more. You said that the offensive line is going to flourish today. How many does Boston Scott get today? Does he get double digits, crooked number?
Well, I think that Nick Sirianni definitely likes the bit of Boston Scott getting a touchdown. But one thing I didn't go over, I don't like the Eagles with the points today. 13.5 is just way too much. I mean, maybe they'll win by that much, but to bet that and to put money down on that with the way the Eagles team has been playing over the last few weeks that's a risky bet in my opinion. But I do think that Boston Scott is going to try to Nick Sirianni is going to try to get him a touchdown just to kind of keep it going. But if it's a blowout, you might see 2. But I would only stick with 1.
All right, some keys to the game today. It's week 16, coming down to the wire here of the 2023 NFL season and the year 2023. This is our second to last Eagles game. Next one coming on New Year's Eve next week, or Sunday, really. So I guess this week. Sam, what are your keys?
Easiest one, say it every single week, is do not turn the ball over. But that one has been super overused, and it seems like they're just going to turn the ball over every single game. So I'm going to bring something new to the table. Make Tommy DeVito beat you. If you make him play quarterback and you make him beat you, you have a great chance of winning this game. Like I said, this defense has shown that even bad quarterbacks like Drew Lock can beat you, but I have a lot of confidence that if the Eagles take away the Giants' best weapon on offense, which is Saquon Barkley, and then make Tommy DeVito, especially because the Giants do not have great wide receivers. They tried with Kenny Galladay a couple years ago, and he's been a huge failure that they ended up cutting. So they don't have a lot of great wide receivers, and DeVito, he's done a good enough job, but if he's having to walk them down the field every drive with long balls, middle passes, all that kind of stuff, it's going to be a long day for the Giants, in my opinion. So the biggest key is to make Tommy DeVito beat you. And then I think the Eagles just need to take a different offensive approach this game, and I think one of the biggest keys for them is to just take the easy completions. There's no need to be bombs away every single game, every single drive, just about every single play. There's no need to have 25 to 35-yard routes developing on every single play. You need to take the easy completions. If you have to have a 15-play drive to score a touchdown, it's okay. It happens in the NFL. It still ends in a touchdown. So I think the Eagles just need to kind of relax a little bit, take the easy completions, take long drives, and I think they'll be okay.
I saw a quote from Nick Sirianni earlier this week. I think it was Wednesday, after Monday night's disaster, about Brian Johnson and how Nick Sirianni deserves some blames. It's his offense. Brian Johnson's just calling the plays. What do you think about that? Nick Sirianni, his offense, but he's not calling the plays.
So I think it's definitely true. I don't think he's just saying that, because we saw a couple years ago when he first got hired, when he first implemented this offense, he was calling the plays, and then they were not playing very well. So then he gave over play calling to Shane Steichen, and then the season kind of took off, leading them into the playoffs. And then after that success, he stopped calling plays as well the next season, and Shane Steichen just started the season as a play caller. So Nick Sirianni was hired as an offensive head coach who was going to call plays. So 100% is his offense, and obviously Brian Johnson calls the plays, so he is not lying. But that can definitely get him in trouble going forward. He's taking the credit; he deserves the credit or the blame for the offensive struggles, and he deserves credit when the offense does well. But at the end of the day, Brian Johnson is always going to be the scapegoat because he's the new name that is in the Eagles' offensive coaching room. But it is Nick Sirianni's offense, and at the end of the day, when the ship goes down eventually, if it ever does, he's going to be the one that goes down with it, because even from day one, it's always been his offense.
All right, the Foco Samheim fit check. Something about Foco today that was pretty cool is that Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson walked into the stadium today wearing some Foco merch. They had on the It's a Philly Think sweater, so that was pretty cool to see. So shout out to Foco. Foco, go to that link right there. Save 10% off any Foco purchase. Sam, the Eagles are going with the black jerseys today, and it looks like you are too. Whose jersey? And what else are we rocking on this Christmas Day?
Yeah, so 20 years ago today, the Eagles debuted. 20 years ago today, on Christmas Day in 2003, the Eagles debuted their black uniforms for the first time. And on that day, they beat the New York Giants. So I am bringing out a jersey from that game. I have the 2003 black John Ritchie jersey. John Ritchie is obviously now the 94 WIP morning show host. And this jersey is from that game when the Eagles beat the Giants on Christmas Day, 20 years ago. So I'm hoping it brings us the same luck and we get the same result today.
You don't see a lot of John Ritchie jerseys. I don't know if I've ever seen a John Ritchie jersey. So that's an interesting one. I'm not going against it, but I don't know if I've ever seen a John Ritchie jersey.
I've been trying to get out to. I was trying to go to one of their events to try to get them to sign it, but I'd never worked out. So maybe I'll never get it signed. Maybe I'll mail it to WIP to get them signed. But Hoping it brings us the same luck as it did 20 years ago today.
Hope so. The Eagles need that luck. And now we are moving on. 4 minutes left until game time predictions for today's game. Eagles-Giants, Week 16, Christmas Day. Sam, how do we feel? How are we feeling about tonight's game? Are the Eagles going to win?
So I am not feeling very confident about the offense. I'm at a point with this offense, with Jalen, and with the offensive coaching staff that over these last few games that I need to see them kind of put together a very good game before I'm going to believe it. But I do think that the Eagles defense is going to make enough plays to be able to come out with the victory. I have the Eagles going down late and winning the game late. I have the Eagles walking away with a Christmas win, 21-17.
All right, 21-17. I do also think the Eagles are going to win around that score. I think the Giants are going to score the less. The Eagles are going to score a couple more. I think the Eagles win today 24-14. I don't think it's going to come down to the end. I think the Eagles kind of have the lead throughout the game and end up walking away with a victory. So, yeah, Eagles, what I say, 24-14, I would That's what I'd like to see. We have a couple blowouts in the chat, 37-21, 35-17. I don't know about all that, but that'd be cool if the Eagles can, absolutely kill them and score a lot of points and turn this thing around.
They need to get back on track. The offense needs to get back on track. And like I said earlier, we said it last week, but I'll say it again this week. If there was one team that they're going to get back on track against, it's this Giants defense. So hopefully they'll be able to figure something out. Hopefully they did some soul searching over this last week and kind of were able to figure out some different, nuances and different plays for them to run to kind of get Jalen into a rhythm early and keep it kind of going and put their foot on the gas and don't let it off. So hopefully we get a good offensive performance, but I don't know. After the last couple of games, it's hard to believe that without seeing it right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, the Eagles are out of this gauntlet. They've made it through. They go 3-3 through the gauntlet. A lot of teams will take that, but in the capacity in which the Eagles lost in, Eagles aren't going to take that. That's going to do it from us. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring the show. Use code Philly Sports Report, save $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on X/Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads. Go to PhillySportsSports.com after the game for the post-game recap and tomorrow for the observations. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We'll be with you next week for Eagles Cardinals, and hopefully we'll be talking a little more positively about the Eagles. Go Birds!
Go Birds!